thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming, first of all, and also for that really generous applause. It's always nice when that happens at the beginning, because you can't be certain it's going to happen at the end. So thank you very much for that. Adolescence has not changed. In all the history of the world, the process of adolescence has not changed one iota. Your kids, like mine, are going through exactly the same process of social, emotional, chemical and hormonal growth that people have ever since the dawn of time. But while the process of adolescence hasn't changed, what makes it different for our kids, unlike any in history, is the context in which they're experiencing that change has changed dramatically. Many of the support structures that nursed kids in the past through adolescence have been withdrawn from them. This is the first generation of people in all the world's history, in any society of the world, for whom the extended family has gone out of business. For instance, 2 generations ago, 16-year-old Maggie came home from school. Black cloud over her head, brow furrowed. She went storming into the kitchen to get herself a drink. Mum came out and said, "Maggie, what's the matter with you?" Maggie said, "Oh, Mum, it's all those kids at school. Nobody likes me there. Everybody picks on me there. I hate going to that place." Didn't come to this school. The mother, trying to give that daughter some positive advice that would help her for the future, would have said something like, "You know, Maggie, how many times have I told you, if you just smile a bit more, you'd be nice to people, they'd be nice to you." Maggie, being in no mood to receive that, got mad with Mum and gave her a mouthful of cheek. Mum then got mad with Maggie and gave her a mouthful back. Maggie got so mad with Mum, she stormed out of the house, down the path, out the gate, down the footpath. Then she went to Grandma's house. Stormed into Grandma's house, same black cloud, same furrowed brow. And Grandma said, "Maggie, what's the matter with you?" And Maggie said, "Oh, Nan, it's Mum. I just don't understand her." And Grandma said, "Maggie, sit down. I never understood either. Have a cup of tea." Today's kids are the first generation in the world's history to be totally unnecessary. In the past, kids were valued. People looked forward to having children because of the contribution those kids would make to the family, the home, the community and the society. Kids were considered to be assets. They're no longer assets. They're now liabilities. They're an expense, a cost. It wasn't that long ago that people chose to have children on the basis of the overwhelming urgency to have children. Today, people choose to have children on the basis of whether they can afford them or not. And by the way, none of us can afford them. The Australian Institute of Family Studies has estimated that it costs around $200,000 to raise a child at the age of 18. And you wondered why you were broke. And that's before you pay the fees here. These kids are expensive. They're not people. They're black holes into which you pour money. The next fortnight, monitor the media. Keep a piece of blank paper close by wherever you watch television or listen to the radio, read the newspaper. Divide that paper into 2 columns. Each time you hear young people mentioned in a positive light, put it in the right-hand column. Each time you hear them mentioned in a negative light, put it in the left-hand column. Before your fortnight is out, your column of negative ticks will be full. You'll be lucky to have 1 or 2 in the positive column. Every message we hear about young people in the news today is bad news. They can't read, they can't write, they can't count, they can't spell. They're taking drugs, they're getting drunk. They're giving pregnancy, they're committing arson in our schools, graffiti on our walls. Is it any wonder your children don't want to watch the news? It is a horror story about them. And for a long time it concerned me. I couldn't understand. I worked with kids for 30 years. And I see these kids living in this wonderful society, so rich in resources and opportunities and support systems. And I asked myself, how is it that kids living in this society would so easily put that all at risk? And then it hit me. You see, if you don't believe you matter, it doesn't matter what you do. And for the kind of reasons I've raised tonight, many others as well, far too many of our kids today just don't believe they matter. So it doesn't matter what they do. A thing that complicates all of these things, especially when we try and discuss them with our kids, is that kids today process information differently to us. You see, you and I were taught how to think in a Greco-Roman fashion. We were people who were taught how to think about things 1 thing at a time. In fact, adults are people who can only think about 1 thing at a time, unless you're a mother. Then it's 3 or 4. If you're a father and the television's on, it's none. Our kids, on the other hand, have been trained to think in a mosaic way. What this means is our kids have been trained to think about a whole range of things all at the same time and come up with a number of different conclusions without getting confused. A symptom, or perhaps cause of this, are computer games and video games. How many here have children who have electronic games? Pop your hands up. Oh, lots. How many here have tried to play those things? Exactly, lots of little giggles and wry smiles. Adults don't do very well with computer games unless you're a particularly nerdy adult. Why? Because there's too much happening at the same time. My kids who play the Nintendo to relax, I was on it for 30 seconds, I was the candidate for Valium. One of the most overused phrases in parenting today is, when I was your age. I want to tell you something, folks. We were never their age. We as parents this new millennium are going to face many situations we just don't understand. Your children, like mine, are going to want to do, say, and be things that scare you to death and drive you nuts. He'll meet some girl one day, that'll be her problem, and you can move on.